Hey everyone, this is Captain V. Have I ever told you about the time I ran into a cougar at the top of an ice climb? No? Watch on. All right, this story takes place just a year or two ago, and I was out ice climbing with a friend of mine. I'll call him Bruce. Wasn't his real name. Bruce and I were out climbing in the Rocky Mountains, and are on the edge of the Rocky Mountains in Canada. And it was very similar to this climb. It was a little bit different one. And we were ice climbing. This is me here on a different ice climb on a very similar situation to this. So we had climbed up, and there were one, two, three, four different sets of frozen waterfalls to climb on this climb. And it went up through this like narrow rock canyon in the mountain. It was beautiful. Yeah, it looked great. And there we did the first one fine, second one good, third one good, fourth one good. Finally, once we got to the fourth one, I was going to be climbing it, and I was going to be leading it. So different to this one, you can see the rope here going up through the anchor and then down to me here. It was a little bit different. There was no rope set up yet. I was on the rope, but I was putting in the protection as I went up, the ice screws along the way. And then I was going to be setting up the anchor off of a very sturdy tree up top once I got there. So everything was great for the day. Climbing went great. Very confident, beautiful ice, lots of ice, solid, anchors were all good. And I was nearing the final pitch of the final climb. And as I went up here, I was hacking away with my ice axes. I got up, all the way to the top here. And right up at the top, it was kind of similar to this, how it was a little bit mirrored, but once you got up over the lip here, it wasn't too great of ice right there. You kind of had to sidestep around a similar kind of stump like this, around up behind it, to get over back into the trees a bit where there was a really good tree to set up the anchor on. That's what I did. So I got up here, and then I put in one final screw over here, the ice screw, before I moved that way, and moved back towards a tree like that one. That was about 20, 30 feet back from the edge. And it took me a few minutes to get from here over to that tree, just being careful and choosing my footing well. And I was still within earshot of Bruce. Bruce was where this picture is taken from. So he could see me, he was belaying me, and he could still hear me if I shouted down to him, which I would soon do. I got up over here, I worked my way over to the tree there, and then in about there were already some slings there. I was setting up my own slings around this tree and setting up the anchor so that I could belay Bruce off of that tree nice and safely. But as I was doing that out, I was getting gear around there. I all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye from this tree, only about 30, 40 feet away, so about, I don't know, 15 yards away, all of a sudden I heard, whoom, and I saw this golden flash out of the corner of my eye jump out of the tree from about 10 feet up the tree. So like 3 yards up the tree, 3 or 4 yards up the tree, it went boom down to the ground. And I was like, whoa. I look over and I'm like, whoa. And now I'm in like alert mode. I yell down to Bruce. I'm like, Bruce, something big just came out of the tree up here. And he goes, well, use your axes. I'd completely forgotten. I have these two like razor sharp, practically ice axes with me. They're clipped onto my like hip belt here. So I'm like, oh yeah. So I take out my axes there, and because I'm not belaying Bruce at this point yet, so I'm still setting up the anchor. And so I get these axes out, and I'm like looking all around me. I study the area and I look at it, and what's happened is that this is the top of the climb, and then over here it's all rock, and this kind of like valley, and then it's cliff back up there rock, loose rock here, and then over here it's forest going up a kind of like snow slope. And yeah, it's kind of like a 30, 40-degree angle up that way. And I'm looking at that tree over there and I don't see anything, but I know it was big, whatever it was. And there are only so many animals in the Rocky Mountains that can climb trees like that and that are that big. And really, there's one, a cougar. It could be a lynx, it could be even a bobcat, but they're not as big as a cougar. And this, out of the corner of my eye, was a big animal. So I was thinking that's what it might be. So I've got my ice axes out there and I'm like, alone, right up there. Like Bruce is down there. He can't help me. He's going to have to climb up and he needs me to belay him in order to get up there. So I'm alone with this big animal somewhere in the trees around me. And I'm like, ice axes out. And I do what I am used to doing, which I'll tell you another story another time about another cougar I ran into. And I do this. I go, rah, 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 and just kind of sound crazy, but I try to like scare it away because cougars do not like to go into a fight that they're not going to win. So I do that and try to make myself seem intimidating or make myself look big and try to scare it away from me because I don't want it to come after me while I'm belaying Bruce up to me. So there's nothing. I'm sure Bruce is just laughing at me from down here. Nothing. And so I'm like, okay, Bruce. I hook him up. Okay, I set up the anchor. I still have one hand on an axe, and I keep my axes in the snow right in front of me, so they're nice and easy to get to if this animal comes back. And I keep my eyes peeled over there. And I got the anchor ready. I start belaying him, and Bruce climbs his way up. Um, he climbs up like this, similar like this, and comes up over the top. The whole time I'm belaying him by feel, okay, but I'm facing that way. Okay, I'm facing the woods of the last place that I saw this cougar or whatever it was. And other than that, I'm facing that way to be as alert as possible as I continue to belay him up, and I belay him by feel and continue to pull in the slack. And so he finally comes up. He comes over, um, and once he's secure, he's safe up top, and he hooks into the anchor up there. Then I'm like, okay, man, I'm gonna go see if I was just dreaming this and see if there actually is something over here. So I take my axes. Okay, I unclip from the anchor up there, and it's pretty flat to go back to that other tree where I saw the animal. So it's pretty safe. So I walk over there and I get to where I saw something jump out of the tree. And sure enough, there is a massive landing spot about the size of like a beach ball there in the snow. And then I see a few footprints, big footprints. They're about this big, these big cat paw footprints. No claws in the snow, just the pads, single prints like that. And it's like 1, 2, 3. And then it got to this little stone. And then the footprints disappeared. And I'm looking all over like, what? How did it just vanish into thin air from here? I'm looking around for the next print, and I find it about 20 feet up the 30-degree slope on this little kind of like stump that was sticking out of the snow. There was a little bit of dusting there, and you can see I walk up to it, and there's nothing in between. And then you can see it made a little sitting area and had sat there for a while. And then the tracks went completely sideways into another patch of trees. At that point, I thought, okay, nope, I'm far enough away from Bruce. I don't want to go, especially on my own, to go after some large kitty who is already freaked out by me. And so that's it. I'm satisfied. I'll go back and live another day because it is a much better hunter than I am. And I wouldn't want it coming after me. So what it looks like had happened was it was maybe napping, maybe it had heard us climbing and got freaked out and went up into the tree. But by the time, if you think about it, by the time I had climbed up, when I got to here, it was already in the tree and it knew, you better believe it knew I was there. They have great hearing, great sense of smell, great basically every sense. So it knew I was there and it would have been watching me. Only when I walked closer to it to get to that anchor tree did it decide, that's it. This human is coming for me. And so it jumped out of the tree in desperation and revealed itself, revealed its positioning. And that's the only time I saw it. After it hit the ground, I didn't see it through the bushes, through the trees. I couldn't see where it went. But in the meantime, it had run and jumped up the hill, 20 feet up the hill, a huge jump uphill. And then it sat. And it looked as though it would have sat there and watched me as maybe as I belayed Bruce up to me. So the whole time that I was belaying, it was not that far away, and it had just been watching me for about 5 or 10 minutes until finally, once Bruce got up there and we started to rig up equipment, then it took off sideways into the forest behind it. So pretty creepy, a very stealthy animal, one to be wary of and one to respect, and one that you hardly ever know is actually there. So be careful out there, and I hope you have enjoyed this one.